Sometimes the truth hides in plain sight. A single moment, a few words, or one wrong assumption can change the direction of many lives. When a teenager walks into a store to buy something simple, he doesn't know that within minutes, his ordinary day will turn into a nightmare. Accusations will fly. Tempers will rise. People will take sides. But in the corner of the store, mounted high above everyone's heads, a quiet witness sees everything, the security camera. And what it captures will leave the town shaken. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you are watching from today and what time you are currently watching this video. If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Saturday afternoons in Willow Creek Mall were always busy. Families shuffled from one store to another. Kids tugged on their parents' arms asking for ice cream, and teenagers wandered around in groups with backpacks slung over their shoulders. Among them was 17-year-old Marcus Hayes, a tall black teenager with an easy smile and a love for basketball. That day, Marcus wore his school hoodie, jeans, and a pair of sneakers he had saved up for months to buy. He wasn't looking for trouble. He just wanted a bottle of Gatorade and maybe a snack before heading to the community court where his friends were waiting. His mom had given him a $5 bill that morning. "Don't spend it all on junk," she had warned with a smile. Marcus promised he wouldn't. The store he stepped into, Green Mart, wasn't very big, but had everything. A few aisles of groceries, a shelf of magazines, a freezer section, and a small counter with lottery tickets and cigarettes behind glass. The clerk behind the counter was a middle-aged man named Mr. Riley, known around the neighborhood for his sharp eyes and even sharper tongue. Marcus grabbed a cold drink from the fridge, a bag of chips, and walked toward the counter. But as he made his way, he noticed Riley staring at him. Not the casual kind of glance people gave when they saw someone, but a hard, suspicious stare that followed Marcus with every step. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but kept moving. He placed the drink and chips on the counter. "Hey, how much?" he asked politely. Riley narrowed his eyes. "Empty your pockets." Marcus blinked, confused. "What?" "You heard me," Riley said, his voice rising. "I saw you put something in your pocket back there. Don't play games with me. Take it out." Shoppers nearby turned their heads. A mother holding her daughter's hand slowed down. Two teenage boys standing by the candy shelf looked over. Marcus felt the heat of all those eyes on him. "I didn't take anything," Marcus said firmly. He pulled out the $5 bill from his hoodie pocket and placed it on the counter. "I came to pay." Riley leaned forward. "Don't lie to me. You kids think you can walk in here and steal whatever you want. Not in my store. Show me your pockets." Marcus's chest tightened. He looked around and saw a whisper spreading. A woman shook her head as if she had already judged him guilty. His heart pounded, not from guilt, but from humiliation. "I didn't steal," he repeated, his voice shaking slightly now. "I swear. Check the cameras if you don't believe me." But Riley slammed his palm on the counter. "Don't you tell me how to run my store. Either you empty your pockets now, or I'm calling the police." The room seemed to freeze. Marcus knew what calling the police meant. Stories about kids like him ending up in handcuffs for things they didn't do weren't rare. His mom's voice echoed in his head. "Always keep your hands visible. Don't argue. Don't give them a reason." Reluctantly, Marcus turned his pockets inside out, jeans first, then his hoodie. Out tumbled nothing but the crumpled $5 bill and a receipt from the bus ride earlier that morning. His hand shook slightly as he did it. "There," Marcus said. "Happy." But Riley wasn't satisfied. He stepped out from behind the counter, his voice booming loud enough for the whole store to hear. "Don't think you can fool me. You probably slipped it somewhere else. People like you always do." The phrase, "people like you," stung. Marcus's jaw tightened. He clenched his fist but forced himself not to react. One of the teenage boys watching whispered to his friend, "Man, that's messed up." He didn't take anything. But Riley ignored them. He pointed at Marcus. "Stay right here. I'm calling the cops." The store went quiet except for the buzz of the refrigerators. Marcus felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. His face burned with embarrassment and anger. He looked at the door, thought about running, but knew that would only make things worse. "I told you I didn't steal," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Why don't you just check the cameras?" That suggestion seemed to set Riley off even more. "Oh, I'll check them. And when I prove you're lying, you'll be sorry." As Riley picked up the phone to dial, Marcus's hands trembled. Every second felt like an hour. Customers whispered among themselves, some avoiding his eyes, others staring openly. The mother with her daughter pulled the little girl closer, as if Marcus was dangerous. And then, from the corner of his eye, Marcus noticed something, a black dome camera mounted above the fridge where he had picked his drink. Its tiny red light blinked steadily, recording everything. The quiet witness. Marcus's stomach twisted with both hope and dread. He hadn't stolen anything, but would anyone care enough to watch? Would they even see the truth? Or would they believe Riley's word over his? The police hadn't arrived yet, but already Marcus felt condemned. And as Riley spoke into the phone, pacing behind the counter. The line between guilt and innocence grew thinner by the second. But above them all, the little camera kept recording, unblinking, patient, waiting. The phone call seemed to drag forever. Mr. Riley's voice carried through the store as he spoke with the police. "Yeah, I've got him here. Tried to steal from me. Black kid, 17 maybe. Wearing a hoodie. No, he hasn't left yet. Hurry." Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to yell that Riley was lying, but his throat felt tight. His body felt heavy, almost frozen, though adrenaline raced through him. He could see people's eyes on him, each stare slicing deeper into his skin. The teenage boys near the candy shelf whispered to each other again. One of them, a shorter kid with a red cap, finally spoke louder. "Yo!" He didn't even take anything. "I saw him grab the drink and chips, that's it." Riley whipped his head toward them. "Mind your business. Unless you want trouble too." The boy raised his hands and stepped back, muttering under his breath. Marcus caught his eye briefly and saw sympathy there, but also fear. No one wanted to challenge the clerk further. Seconds ticked by like hours. Marcus stood still, his hands shoved into the air, not because Riley asked, but because he remembered his mom's warnings. Always make your hands visible if you're accused of something. They can't say you're reaching for anything if your hands are up. The silence broke when the sound of sirens wailed faintly outside. Marcus's heart sank. His chest thudded so hard he thought everyone could hear it. He glanced at the door. 2 uniformed officers entered, pushing it open with authority. Their presence filled the small store instantly. One officer, tall and broad with shaved head, walked straight toward Marcus. The other, a woman with sharp eyes, stayed close behind. "That's him." Riley shouted from behind the counter, pointing. Caught him trying to steal. Marcus's throat burned. "I didn't steal anything." His voice cracked again, but he forced himself to stand tall. "Check the cameras. Please." The tall officer raised a hand. "Calm down, son. Keep your hands where we can see them." "They've been up the whole time," Marcus said, his arms trembling. The woman officer glanced at Riley. "What exactly did he take?" "I saw him slip something into his pocket," Riley said quickly. "He's slick. Try to act like he was paying, but I know what I saw." Marcus shook his head violently. "That's not true. All I bought was this." He gestured with his chin toward the counter, where the unopened bottle of Gatorade and bag of chips still sat, unpaid. "That's all I grabbed." The tall officer studied Marcus, then looked at Riley. "Do you have cameras in here?" Riley hesitated. His eyes darted toward the ceiling where the black dome camera blinked. "Of course I do, but I don't need cameras to know when someone's stealing. I've been running this store for 15 years. The woman officer pressed. "Still, we'll need to check." Riley frowned but nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but don't waste your time. Kids like him." He stopped mid-sentence, but the damage was done. The officers exchanged a quick glance. Marcus's cheeks burned hotter. "See? He's already decided I'm guilty because of how I look." The officers didn't answer. Instead, the woman officer stepped behind the counter. "Show me the monitor." The moment she moved, the store's tension shifted. People leaned in closer, whispering. A man who had been browsing magazines muttered, "Guess we'll see the truth now." Riley unlocked the office door behind the counter. The woman officer disappeared inside, leaving the tall officer with Marcus. "Turn around," the tall officer ordered. Marcus froze. "What? Why?" "Just turn around. Hands on your head." "I didn't do anything." Marcus shouted, his voice shaking with anger and fear. The officer's jaw tightened. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Marcus felt the weight of every eye in the store. He turned slowly, placing his hands on his head. Shame pressed down on him, heavier than the threat of cuffs. His mind raced. What if the footage didn't load? What if they claimed it wasn't clear? From the office came muffled voices. Riley was speaking quickly, defensive. The woman officer's sharper voice cut through, asking questions. Then silence. The seconds crawled. Marcus's breathing grew shallow. The tall officer stayed behind him, close enough that Marcus could feel his presence like a shadow. Finally, the office door opened. The woman officer stepped out, holding a small remote. Riley followed behind her, his face pale and tight. "Show it," the officer ordered. Riley hesitated. "I don't think. Now." Her tone was sharp, leaving no room for debate. She pressed a button, and the small monitor behind the counter flickered to life. The screen showed a grainy view of the aisle where Marcus had walked earlier. Everyone in the store leaned forward. Even Marcus twisted slightly, desperate to see. There he was on screen, entering the aisle, reaching for the fridge door, pulling out the Gatorade. He held it clearly in his hand. Then he grabbed a bag of chips from the shelf. He adjusted his hoodie with his free hand, but placed nothing in his pocket. The video played in silence. Marcus stood frozen, afraid to even breathe, and then it ended, showing Marcus walking straight to the counter, with only the drink and chips. Nothing more. Gasps rippled through the store. Someone whispered, "He didn't steal." Another voice, louder this time. The kid's telling the truth. Marcus's chest heaved with relief and anger all at once. He turned his head slowly toward Riley, whose face had gone red. "I told you," Marcus said, his voice low but fierce. "I told you I didn't steal." Riley stammered. It must have been a mistake. The camera angle doesn't show everything. But the woman officer cut him off. "Enough. The footage is clear." She turned to Marcus. "You can lower your hands." Marcus dropped his arms, muscles aching from holding them up so long. He rubbed his wrists, the ghost of fear still clinging to them. The tall officer looked uncomfortable now. He avoided Marcus's eyes. The store buzzed with whispers. Some customers shook their heads in disgust. At Riley, not Marcus. Others slipped quietly out, not wanting to get involved. Marcus stood in the center, his chest rising and falling. The humiliation was still raw, but the truth was finally out, at least for now. But the story was far from over, because while the footage cleared Marcus, the fallout of Riley's accusation was only just beginning. The air in Green Mart was heavy, like a storm had just passed, but left thunder rumbling in the distance. Marcus stood there, fists clenched at his sides, as the whisper spread around him. The footage had cleared him, but the sting of being accused still burned. The woman officer clicked the remote and turned to Riley. "You accuse him without proof." That could have ended badly. Riley's face twitched. He tried to force a smile, but it looked more like a grimace. "Look, I thought I saw something. People steal from here all the time. I was just doing my job." "Your job?" Marcus snapped, his voice cracking under the weight of humiliation and anger. "Isn't to embarrass me in front of everyone and call the cops on me when I didn't do anything." The store went silent again. All eyes shifted to Marcus. His chest rose and fell, his voice steadying. "You didn't even bother checking the camera before you treated me like a criminal." The teenage boys by the candy shelf nodded. One of them said loudly, "He's right. You jumped on him cause of how he looks." Riley's face turned bright red. "Watch it, kid," he barked. But the woman officer stepped in again, her voice firm. "Enough. Mr. Riley, this isn't just a misunderstanding. You need to think carefully before making accusations like this." Marcus glanced around. Some customers were leaving quickly, uncomfortable with the confrontation. Others stayed, eager to see what would happen next. The tall officer finally spoke. His tone was calmer, softer than before. "Son, you're free to go. You didn't do anything wrong." Marcus almost laughed bitterly. Free to go? He had been free the whole time, until Riley chained him with his words. Still, he nodded. "I just want to buy a drink." "That's it." He picked up the bottle and chips, slapped the $5 bill on the counter harder than he meant to, and turned toward the door. The plastic bag rustled in his hands, loud in the tense silence. As he pushed open the glass door, someone called out, "Don't let him leave like that." It was Riley again, desperate now. "He's making me look bad in front of everyone. He's twisting it." The door banged as Marcus stopped. He turned slowly, his eyes sharp, filled with the weight of everything that had just happened. "I don't have to twist anything. You did this yourself." And with that, he stepped out into the bright afternoon, the door shutting behind him with a loud thud. The mall felt different now. The laughter of children, the chatter of families, the smell of food from the nearby food court. It all clashed with the storm still raging inside Marcus. His hands trembled as he walked, his mind racing. He wanted to go straight to the basketball court, to lose himself in the rhythm of the game, but he couldn't. His chest still burned. He could already imagine the questions from his friends. "Why are you late? What happened?" How was he supposed to explain that he'd just been accused of being a thief? His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was his mom. He hesitated before answering, but he knew he couldn't hide it from her. "Marcus? Where are you?" she asked, her voice cheerful at first. He swallowed hard. "At the mall." "You sound upset. What's wrong?" Marcus stopped near a bench, his free hand gripping the edge until his knuckles whitened. "Mom, they thought I stole something." Silence on the other end. Then, sharper, "Who?" "The store clerk. At Green Mart. He called the cops on me." There was a sharp inhale, then his mother's voice, tight and angry. "Are you okay?" "Did they checked the cameras. It showed I didn't do anything." His throat tightened as a memory replayed in his head. "But everyone saw. They all thought I was guilty." His mother's silence was louder than words. Then she spoke, calm but firm. "Come home now. We'll talk about this." Marcus nodded, even though she couldn't see. "Okay." He shoved the phone back in his pocket and began walking. Each step felt heavy, dragging with the weight of the accusation. People walked past him, carrying shopping bags, laughing, chatting, living normal lives. Marcus felt like he was carrying a scar no one could see. Back inside Green Mart, tension still lingered. Riley paced behind the counter, muttering under his breath. The woman officer had stayed behind, giving him a sharp warning about filing false accusations. The tall officer had stepped outside a radio in the incident. The teenage boys whispered to each other again, then left, shaking their heads. That was messed up, one of them said as the door shut behind them. The mother who had pulled her daughter close earlier now looked uneasy. She glanced at Riley but said nothing. She simply paid for her groceries quickly and left. Riley noticed the stares, the whispers. He could feel the judgment pressing in. His hand shook slightly as he rang up the next customer. He muttered to himself, I was just protecting my store, just doing my job. But the words fell hollow, even to him. Marcus made it home half an hour later. His mother, Denise Hayes, was waiting at the door. She was a nurse, still in her scrubs, her eyes sharp with both worry and fire. Tell me everything, she said the moment he stepped in. Marcus set the bag on the kitchen counter and explained. From the moment he walked into Green Mart to the second he left. He told her about Riley's stares, the accusations, the cops, and finally, the camera. Denise listened silently, arms crossed, jaw tight. When he finished, she shook her head slowly. This can't be ignored. Marcus looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? She met his eyes, her voice steady. He humiliated you. He put your life at risk, calling the police over nothing. This isn't the kind of thing you just walk away from. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Mom, I don't want more trouble. I just want to forget it. But Denise shook her head. No, if you stay quiet, it'll happen again to you or someone else. Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Marcus sat down at the table, his body slumped. What can we even do? Denise's eyes narrowed. We'll start by making sure everyone knows what really happened. That man wants to hide behind excuses? Fine, but the truth is on camera. And if the world sees it, they'll know. Marcus's heart raced. He thought of the blinking red light above the fridge, the one that had silently saved him. Could that tiny camera change everything again? He didn't know yet. But something told him the story was only beginning. That evening, the Hayes living room was quiet except for the low hum of the ceiling fan. Marcus sat on the couch, his bag of chips untouched on the table. His mom paced back and forth, still in her scrubs, her mind racing. You don't understand, Marcus, Denise said firmly. This wasn't just about today. That man looked at you and decided you were guilty before you even spoke. That's dangerous. Marcus rubbed his forehead. I know, Mom, but going after him, won't that make things worse? People will say I'm trying to cause drama. Denise stopped pacing and looked him straight in the eye. People will talk no matter what. The question is, do we let his lies stand? Or do we stand up for the truth? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The weight of what happened still clung to him. He remembered the eyes on him, the whispers, the way even the officer told him to calm down, as if he were the problem. Before he could answer, there was a knock on the door. Denise frowned. Who could that be this late? Marcus stood slowly and opened the door. Outside stood one of the teenage boys from the store, the one in the red cap. He looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder as if worried about being seen. Hey, the boy said. You're Marcus, right? Marcus nodded, surprised. Yeah, you were at Green Mart. The boy nodded quickly. I wanted to say I saw everything. You didn't take nothing. The way he went at you, it was wrong. Denise stepped forward. Come in. The boy shook his head. Can't. My mom's waiting. If you need someone to back you up, I'll tell the truth. People need to know what that clerk did. Denise's expression softened. What's your name? Derek, the boy said. He glanced down the street, then back at them. I gotta go. But you got my word. You're not alone. And just like that, he jogged off into the night. Marcus closed the door slowly, still processing. He didn't have to do that, he muttered. No, Denise said firmly. But he did, which means this isn't just in our heads. Others saw it too. Marcus sank back onto the couch, his mind buzzing. The humiliation he felt earlier was slowly transforming into something else. Anger, yes, but also determination. The next morning, Denise made phone calls. First to the police department, asking about the incident report. Then to the mall's management office, demanding access to the footage. Marcus listened from a kitchen table, eating cereal slowly as his mother's voice grew sharper with each call. You can't sweep this under the rug, she snapped into the phone. My son was publicly accused, police were called, and the camera proved him innocent. I want to know what your policy is for protecting customers from false accusations. When she hung up, Marcus raised his eyebrows. They didn't like that, huh? Denise gave a humorless laugh. They'll try to act like it's nothing, but we're not letting this slide. Marcus stirred his cereal quietly. What if Riley fights back? What if he says it was just a mistake? Then we make sure people see it wasn't, Denise replied. Meanwhile, at Green Mart, Riley wasn't having an easy morning either. Word had spread fast. Customers whispered as they came in. Some gave him sharp looks. Others avoided him entirely. Morning, said Mrs. Garcia, a regular customer. but her voice lacked its usual warmth. She placed her groceries on the counter, eyes cold. Heard what happened yesterday. Riley stiffened. Don't believe everything you hear. I don't need to, she shot back. I believe what I saw. You went after that boy like he was a criminal. Shame on you. Her words stung worse than any slap. Riley forced a tight smile, but his hands shook as he rang up her items. The truth was, he couldn't stop replaying the footage in his head. Clear as day, Marcus hadn't stolen a thing. Yet Riley's gut had screamed otherwise, and he acted on it. Now the community was turning against him. By midday, Marcus couldn't take sitting at home anymore. He grabbed his basketball and headed to the court. The sound of bouncing rubber against concrete, the squeak of sneakers. It was the one place where life felt normal. But even there, whispers followed. Yo, Marcus. A friend called out as he joined the game. Heard about Greenmart. That's wild, man. Marcus tried to shrug it off. Yeah, forget it. Let's just play. But as the game wore on, he felt the eyes on him. Some kids slapped him on the back, saying things like, good thing the camera saved you. Others asked, what if there had been a camera? That question sank deep into Marcus's gut. What if? He might have been cuff-booked and labeled forever. All for nothing. The ball slipped from his hands, rolling out of bounds. He bent over, hands on his knees, trying to steady his breath. He realized then, this wasn't something he could just forget. The question what if was too heavy to ignore. That evening, Denise sat with Marcus at the kitchen table, paper spread out in front of her. We need to make this official, she said. A complaint. A formal one. Marcus stared at the papers. That means everyone will know. They already know, Denise replied. What matters is how the story gets told. If Riley gets to spin it, you'll be the kid who almost stole. But if we speak, it's the truth. You were accused unfairly, and the footage proved it. Marcus exhaled slowly. He didn't want to be in the spotlight. He just wanted his normal life back. But maybe normal wasn't an option anymore. Finally, he nodded. Okay, let's do it. Denise smiled faintly, pride flickering in her eyes. That's my boy. The days that followed built tension like a drumbeat. People in town took sides. Some said Riley was just doing his job. Others said he crossed a line. Local bloggers started writing about it. The headline on one small site read, Store clerk accuses teen of theft. Footage says otherwise. At school, Marcus felt the stares again, but this time they were different. Some kids whispered support. Others avoided him. Teachers asked if he was okay, their voices careful. But inside Marcus, the fire grew. He hadn't chosen this fight, but it found him, and he was starting to see this wasn't just about him. It was about what could happen to anyone who looked like him, walking into a store on an ordinary day. And the camera had caught it all. By the end of the week, the story was no longer just whispers in Willow Creek. It had begun to spread beyond the small town. Someone had leaked a short clip from the security footage, grainy but clear enough to show Marcus walking to the aisle, holding only the Gatorade and chips. The video landed on social media. At first, just a few people shared it, mostly local teens who had been in the store or knew Marcus. But soon, it was picked up by others. By Friday morning, Marcus woke up to find his phone buzzing with notifications. His friend Jay texted him, Bro, you're all over Twitter. Marcus blinked at the screen, groggy. What? He muttered, pulling himself up in bed. He opened the link Jay sent. There was his face, grainy but unmistakable, standing at the counter while Riley pointed at him. The caption read, Teen falsely accused of stealing. Cameras prove his innocence. The video already had thousands of views. Comments piled underneath. Some said, disgusting. Shame on that clerk. Others argued, he probably tried to steal off camera. The split opinions made Marcus's stomach churn. Downstairs, the smell of bacon filled the air. He walked into the kitchen to see his mom at the stove, phone in hand. She looked up at him with a serious expression. It's out there now. Marcus sat heavily at the table. I didn't ask for this. Denise placed a plate in front of him. No, but sometimes the truth refuses to stay quiet. He pushed the food around with his fork. Appetite gone. Now everybody's looking at me. What if this just makes things worse? Denise sat across from him, folded her hands. Or maybe it makes things better. Maybe it forces people to see what you went through. At Greenmart, Riley was in a spiral. His store had fewer customers than usual. Those who came in treated him differently. Some were cold, others outright hostile. Hope you're proud of yourself, one woman muttered as she paid for milk. Riley clenched his jaw. Lady, you don't know the whole story. But deep down, he knew she was right. The footage had stripped away his excuses. Still in his mind, he held on to one thought. I can't be the villain here. I was protecting my store. He avoided looking at the camera mounted above the fridge. That silent witness had betrayed him and he hated it. Meanwhile, Marcus's life at school had shifted. By Monday, everyone seemed to know. Some kids patted him on the back. Man, that was messed up. Good thing they caught it on tape. Others were less kind. "Hey, Marcus," one boy sneered in the hallway. "Better keep your hands visible. Don't want anyone thinking you're stealing." His friends laughed. Marcus's fists clenched, but he walked on. Fighting back would only feed their cruelty. At lunch, Jay and Derek, the boy in the red cap, sat with him. Derek leaned in. "You see the views on that video? It's blowing up." "I don't care about views," Marcus muttered. "Yeah, but you should," Jay said. "People are paying attention. That's power, man." Marcus stared at his tray. "It doesn't feel like power. It feels like everyone's watching me, waiting for me to slip up." Derek shook his head. "Nah, they're watching to see what you do next." That evening, Denise received a call from a local reporter. They wanted an interview with Marcus. She brought it up gently at dinner. "They just want to hear your side," she explained. "You can tell the world what really happened, in your own words." Marcus frowned. "And then what? Riley gets dragged, and everyone forgets in a week? Or maybe," Denise said softly, "it sparks something bigger. Maybe it makes other store owners think twice before judging someone." Marcus thought of the sirens, the hands on his head, the shame that crawled under his skin like a second layer. He swallowed hard. "Fine, I'll do it, but only if I get to say exactly what I want." Denise nodded. "That's the only way." The interview happened in their living room 2 days later. A young journalist set up a small camera, while Marcus sat stiffly on the couch. Denise watched from the kitchen, ready if he needed her. The reporter smiled reassuringly. "Marcus, just tell me what happened in your own words." And he did. He told him about the stares, the accusation, the way everyone in the store looked at him like he was already guilty. He described the fear of the police showing up, the humiliation of turning his pockets inside out. His voice shook at first, but grew steadier as he spoke. "I didn't steal anything," Marcus said firmly, looking straight into the lens. "But the clerk didn't care. He didn't see me. He just saw what he wanted to see. And that could have ruined my life." The reporter nodded solemnly. "Thank you for sharing that." When the piece aired that night on local news, it hit harder than the leaked video. Seeing Marcus speak, hearing his voice, it made people feel the weight of the moment. Some called it courage. Others called it overblown. But no one could ignore it anymore. Riley sat in his store, watching the interview on the small TV behind the counter. Each word from Marcus felt like a hammer against his chest. Customers side-eyed him more than ever that night. A man even muttered, "You ought to apologize," before walking out. Riley slammed the counter in frustration. "I didn't do anything wrong," he shouted, though no one was around to hear. But his words rang hollow, even to him. The tension in town kept building. At church, neighbors whispered about the incident. At the barber shop, men debated whether Riley should lose his store. Social media feeds buzzed with arguments, some defending Riley, others calling for justice. And through it all, Marcus felt caught in the middle. He hadn't asked to be a symbol. He was just a kid who wanted to drink and chips. But now, his name carried weight he didn't know how to handle. One night, lying in bed, Marcus stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed nonstop with messages, some supportive, others hateful. One simply read, "Watch your back." He turned off the screen, heart pounding. The fight was bigger than he imagined. It wasn't just about a store anymore. It was about trust, about truth, about what happened when an accusation met the unblinking eye of a camera. And Marcus knew this was only the beginning. By the following week, Marcus couldn't walk down the street without feeling eyes on him. At school, at the basketball court, even at the corner store across town, people recognized him. Some offered encouragement. Others whispered as he passed. "Hey, that's the kid from the news," someone said once at the bus stop. Marcus pretended not to hear, but inside his stomach tightened. The interview had made him visible in a way he never wanted to be. He was no longer just Marcus Hayes, the basketball kid from Willow Creek High. He was the boy who got accused. At home, Denise noticed the toll it was taking. Marcus's shoulders slumped more. He avoided eye contact. His phone buzzed nonstop, but half the time he left it face down on the table. "You can't let them crush you," Denise told him one evening as they washed dishes together. "The ones sending hate don't matter. The truth matters." Marcus shook his head. "It's not that simple. Even if the camera showed I was innocent, some people still think I did it. They'll always think that." Denise placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you prove them wrong every single day." But Marcus wasn't sure how. Meanwhile, Riley's world was unraveling. Green Mart sales dropped sharply. Long-time customers avoided the store. Some walked in, looked around, then left without buying anything. Riley felt their judgment like a weight pressing down on him. One afternoon, a man slammed a newspaper on the counter. The front page had Marcus's photo from the interview. "You're a disgrace," the man said flatly before leaving. Riley clenched his fists, staring at the photo. The headline read, "Teen speaks out after false accusation." The walls of his store seemed to close in. He wanted to shout at everyone that he wasn't a racist, that he had just made a mistake. But deep down, he knew the truth was harsher. He hadn't just made a mistake, he had acted on bias, and now the whole town knew it. A few days later, the town held a community meeting at the recreation center. The mayor announced it after pressure from local activists and parents. Flyers went up around town. Community discussion, fairness, justice, and accountability. Denise urged Marcus to go. This is your chance to speak, not just for yourself, but for others too. Marcus hesitated. What if they just stare at me again? What if Riley's there? Then you looked him in the eye, Denise said firmly. And you tell your story again, loud enough for everyone to hear. The recreation center was packed that night. Folding chairs lined the basketball court. A microphone set up in the middle. The room buzzed with conversation, some heated, some curious. Marcus sat in the front row with his mother, his hands sweaty, his heart pounding. When the mayor finally tapped the mic, the room quieted. We're here tonight because of an incident that has stirred strong feelings in our town. We want to listen, to talk, and to understand. Several speakers went first, parents, teachers, community leaders. Some spoke about fairness, others about fear. Then the mayor called Marcus's name. The room seemed to hold its breath as Marcus stood. He walked slowly to the microphone, his legs heavy, his palms slick. He cleared his throat, voice unsteady at first. I didn't steal anything, he began. His eyes scanned the crowd, faces young and old, some sympathetic, others skeptical. But when I walked into that store, the clerk looked at me and decided I was guilty. Before I said a word, before I paid for anything, he already saw me as a thief. His voice grew steadier as he went on. The police came. They told me to put my hands on my head. I thought maybe that was it for me. Over chips and a drink I hadn't even touched yet. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Denise's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed strong, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Marcus continued, the only reason I'm standing here today and not sitting in a cell is because of a camera. That camera saved me. But what if it hadn't been there? What then? The silence in the room was deep, heavy. Marcus's chest rose and fell as he finished. All I wanted was a drink. I walked out humiliated, treated like a criminal in front of my whole community. That's not something you just forget. He stepped back, his hands trembling. The room erupted in murmurs. Some people clapped. Others shook their heads, muttering under their breath. And then, to everyone's surprise, Riley stood. He had been sitting quietly in the back, his cap pulled low. Slowly, he walked to the microphone. The crowd turned, buzzing louder. Riley gripped the stand, his knuckles white. His voice cracked slightly as he spoke. I've run that store for 15 years. I've seen shoplifters. I've seen scams. That day, I thought I saw him slip something into his pocket. Boos and shouts rose from parts of the crowd. Riley raised his hand. Listen, I was wrong. The camera showed it. But in that moment, I believed it. And maybe I believed it too quickly. Maybe I saw what I expected to see, not what was really there. The crowd hushed again, some leaning forward. Riley's face was pale, his voice heavy. I can't take back what I did, but I know I embarrassed him. I know I made him feel like he was less than everyone else. And that's on me. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air. Some clapped. Others scoffed. Marcus stood frozen, unsure how to feel. Was it enough? Was it real? Or just a man trying to save his reputation? Denise whispered to him, don't let his words silence your truth. Marcus nodded faintly, still staring at Riley. The meeting went on, but Marcus barely heard the rest. His mind spun with Riley's apology, the crowd's reaction, the weight of being at the center of it all. When the meeting ended, people swarmed around him, pats on the back, questions, encouragement. Marcus forced smiles, but inside, a storm still raged. Because apologies didn't erase fear. They didn't erase humiliation. And they didn't erase the fact that one wrong assumption could have changed his life forever. As he stepped outside into the cool night air, Marcus realized something. This story wasn't just his anymore. It belonged to the town, to anyone who had ever been judged before being seen. And the question now wasn't whether people had heard him. It was what they were going to do about it. The community meeting had ended, but its ripple effect was just beginning. By the next morning, the story was everywhere again. Local newspapers carried headlines like, Teens' Powerful Words Stir Town Debate. Clips of Marcus's speech spread online, drawing both praise and criticism. Some called him brave. Others accused him of exaggerating. Marcus tried to keep his head down, but it was impossible. At school, students stopped him in the hallway. Man, that was powerful, one kid said, slapping his shoulder. Another whispered, careful, hero, not everyone's cheering for you. Marcus heard both. The support felt good, but the whispers cut deep. At basketball practice, Coach Daniels pulled him aside. You played strong last night, the coach said, but your head's not fully here. Talk to me. Marcus dribbled the ball absently. Coach, it's like, people don't see me as me anymore. I'm not Marcus, the kid who loves basketball. I'm Marcus, the boy accused. Coach nodded slowly. You can't control what people call you, but you can control how you carry yourself. Every time you step on that court, you show them who you really are. Marcus wanted to believe that, but part of him wondered if the label would ever go away. Meanwhile, Riley's life outside Green Mart was falling apart. His phone barely rang, except for angry messages. Friends he'd known for years stopped answering his calls. Even his own brother told him over the phone, "You really messed up this time, man. This isn't just bad for business, it's bad for who you are." Riley sat in his office at the back of the store, staring at the shelves. Sales were half of what they used to be. Some days, he barely had enough customers to keep the lights on. For the first time, Riley considered closing the store. Green Mart had been his life's work, but now it felt more like a cage. That evening, as he was locking up, a group of teenagers passed by. One of them shouted, "Hey, thief hunter, caught any more innocent kids today?" The others laughed as Riley's face burned red. He turned the key quickly and went inside, locking the door behind him. He leaned against the counter, his chest tight. He hated what had become in everyone's eyes. Across town, Denise sat at the kitchen table, writing notes. Bills, reminders, and now, something new, letters. She had been contacted by a civil rights group in the city. They wanted Marcus to come speak at one of their events. When she told him, Marcus's eyes widened. "Speak? Like, in front of a crowd again?" "Yes," Denise said gently. "They think your story can inspire other young people. Show them they're not alone." Marcus hesitated. "I don't know if I'm ready for that. One meeting nearly broke me." Denise touched his hand. "Sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones that need to be told the most." Marcus stared at the paper, torn between fear and a strange new sense of responsibility. The tension in town kept building. A week later, graffiti appeared on the wall behind Green Mart. "Justice for Marcus." The next day, someone spray painted over it with, "Support local business." Arguments broke out on social media, in the diner, even at church. Some people believed Riley had apologized enough. Others said one apology wasn't nearly enough of the harm done. The town felt divided, as though a single incident cracked open something much bigger. Then came the night Marcus couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, replaying Riley's face at the meeting. The apology, the crowd's mixed reaction, the fear in Riley's eyes. Something about it gnawed at him. Around midnight, Marcus got out of bed and slipped to the living room. He turned on the TV, flipping channels until he landed on a local station, replaying the meeting highlights. He watched himself at the microphone, his voice trembling, then growing steady. Then he watched Riley. Riley's voice was shaky. His apology seemed genuine, but there was a flicker in his eyes, almost like he was hiding something. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. What if Riley hadn't told the full truth that night? The thought made his stomach twist. The next day at school, Marcus confided in his friend Jordan. "I don't think he told the whole truth," Marcus said. Jordan frowned. "What do you mean?" He admitted he was wrong. "Yeah, but think about it," he said. "He thought he saw me take something. But when I walked in, I didn't even get a chance to look around before he accused me. He came at me almost immediately." Jordan leaned back, nodding slowly. "So maybe he never really saw anything. Maybe he just decided you looked guilty." Marcus clenched his fists. "Exactly." Jordan gave him a sharp look. "So what are you going to do about it?" Marcus didn't answer right away. But deep down, he knew he couldn't let it go. That weekend, Denise took Marcus grocery shopping at a different store, not Green Mart. But when they returned home, a surprise was waiting. A letter sat wedged in their front door. The handwriting was messy, almost hurried. Marcus opened it. His heart skipped as he read the words. "There's more you don't know. Meet me tomorrow night behind the rec center. 8 p.m. Come alone." Marcus's hands trembled. He showed Denise the note. Her face hardened. "This could be dangerous." "You're not going alone." "Mom," Marcus said, his voice urgent. "What if this is important? What if it proves Riley's lying about something?" Denise shook her head. "If it's important, then we'll go together. No secrets." Marcus hesitated. Staring at the note again, the words echoed in his mind. "There's more you don't know." Who had written it? And what exactly were they hiding? The next evening, Marcus and Denise drove to the recreation center. The parking lot was dark, the building closed. They parked near the back, where the shadows stretched long. At exactly 8 p.m., a figure appeared from behind the dumpsters. A hood pulled low, hands stuffed in pockets. Marcus's pulse raced. Denise gripped his arm protectively. The figure stepped closer, glancing around nervously. Then, in a low voice, they said, "I was in the store that day. I saw what happened. And trust me, what Riley told everyone isn't the whole story." Marcus's breath caught in his throat. The mystery deepened. The figure in the hoodie kept glancing around, as if the shadows themselves might be listening. Marcus's heart hammered, and Denise's hand stayed firm on his arm. She whispered, "We shouldn't be here." The person finally pulled the hood back just enough for their face to show. Marcus recognized him immediately. "Caleb," Marcus said in surprise. Caleb was a senior at the high school, one of those kids who drifted in and out of trouble but never quite got caught. He worked odd jobs around town, usually stocking or sweeping for cash. "What are you doing here?" Marcus asked. Caleb shoved his hands deeper into his pockets. "Look, man, I didn't want to get involved at first, but I can't keep quiet anymore. I was inside Green Mart that day. I saw what really went down." Denise's eyes narrowed. "Then why didn't you come forward sooner?" Caleb shifted on his feet. "Because Riley, he pays me sometimes to help stock shelves. If I spoke up, I knew he'd cut me off, maybe worse. But now everything's gone too far. The whole town's at each other's throats. And you," he pointed at Marcus, "you're stuck carrying all the weight for something you didn't do." Marcus swallowed hard. "So what did you see?" Caleb took a shaky breath. "Riley didn't just think you stole something. He planted it." The words hit like a punch. Denise's mouth opened, then closed. Marcus shook his head slowly, as if he hadn't heard right. "Planted? What do you mean?" Caleb leaned in closer. "I was stocking in aisle 3 when you walked in that day. Riley spotted you as soon as you entered. I swear, man, his whole face changed. He walked quick to the front, grabbed a candy bar from the shelf near the counter, and slipped it in his pocket. Then he walked right up to you like he'd been waiting. That's when he accused you. He never saw you steal anything. He set you up." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "You're saying he framed me? On purpose?" Caleb nodded. "Yeah, and the security footage? I think he tampered with it. He's got access to the back room." Denise's voice was sharp. "Do you have proof of this? Anything besides your word?" Caleb hesitated. "I don't have video, but I know Riley saved a copy of the original footage on a hard drive in the back office. He didn't delete it. He hid it. I saw him take it the night after the incident. He locked it in his desk drawer." Marcus exchanged a glance with his mom. This was bigger than they thought. Denise's voice was steady but cold. "If what you're saying is true, Caleb, you understand how serious this is. You could have cleared my son weeks ago." Caleb looked down, ashamed. "I know. I was scared. But I'm here now. Do what you want with it. But I'm telling you the truth." With that, he pulled his hood up and disappeared into the night, leaving Marcus and Denise standing in stunned silence. The car ride home was tense. Marcus stared out the window, his mind racing. "Mom," he finally said, "we can't ignore this. If Riley's hiding the real footage, we need to get it." Denise gripped the steering wheel. "We're not breaking into anything, Marcus. If there's evidence, we bring this to someone who can do something about it, like the police." Marcus shook his head. "And risk them covering for him again? Or saying there's no proof? We've already seen how people take his word over mine." Denise didn't answer right away. Her silence told Marcus she was thinking the same thing. The next day, Denise made some calls. She spoke with a lawyer from the city, someone recommended by the civil rights group that had contacted them. The lawyer agreed to meet. When Marcus joined her at the small office downtown, the lawyer, Ms. Alvarez, listened carefully as they explained everything, including Caleb's claims. Ms. Alvarez leaned forward, her tone calm but firm. "If there really is a hidden copy of the original footage, it could change everything. But we need to get it legally. If you try to take it yourselves, it could be thrown out in court." Marcus clenched his fists. "But what if Riley destroys it before we get to it?" "That's the risk," Alvarez admitted. "We'll need a judge's order to access his files. That takes time. But Caleb's testimony could support our request. If he's willing to put on record, we might move fast enough." Marcus thought Caleb's nervous eyes, his shaky voice. Would Caleb really stand up and testify? Or would he back out the second Riley pushed back? That night, Marcus couldn't sit still. He dribbled his basketball in the driveway until the neighbors yelled at him to stop. He sat on the curb, sweat dripping, staring at the empty street. Jordan biked up and tossed his bag down. "Man, you look like you're carrying the whole world." Marcus told him everything. Caleb's confession, the hidden footage, the lawyer's warning. Jordan whistled. "That's wild. So what now?" "I don't know," Marcus muttered. "If Riley finds out Caleb talked, he'll destroy the evidence. Then it's just Caleb's word against his. And guess who the town's going to believe?" Jordan's eyes narrowed. "Then you can't wait. You've got to move before he does." Marcus gave him a sharp look. "What are you saying? That I should break into Green Mart?" Jordan shrugged. "I'm saying sometimes the system moves too slow. If that footage is there, it's your life on the line. Are you really going to sit back and hope someone else saves it for you?" Marcus stared at the ground, the weight of the choice pressing on him. The following afternoon, Green Mart was quiet. Business had been slow for weeks. Riley sat behind the counter, staring at the clock. His face looked older, more tired. He shuffled to the back office, locking the door. From the desk drawer, he pulled out a small hard drive. He stared at it, his jaw tightening. He muttered to himself, "Should have destroyed this weeks ago." He placed it on the desk, picked up a hammer, and held it above the drive. His hand trembled, but just before he brought it down, the sound of the front door bell echoed faintly. Riley froze. At the same moment, Marcus and Jordan crouched across the street, watching. Marcus's heart raced so fast it hurt. "I can't believe I let you talk me into this," Marcus whispered. Jordan smirked. "Relax. We're just watching. No one said we're breaking in. Yet." Marcus bit his lip, his eyes fixed on a glowing light inside Riley's office. He knew something was happening in there. And he knew one thing for certain. Whatever Riley was doing with that footage, he had to stop him before it was too late. Marcus's stomach was in knots as he crouched in the shadows with Jordan. The cool evening breeze brushed across his face, but his palms were sweaty. His eyes stayed locked on the glowing window of the Green Mart office. Inside, Riley stood over the small hard drive, gripping the hammer tightly. His knuckles were white. Jordan whispered, "If he smashes that thing, it's over. You got to do something, man." Marcus's breath quickened. "What do you want me to do? Just run in there and grab it?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "If you don't, he's going to erase the only proof that clears you." Before Marcus could answer, the hammer came down hard against the desk. Riley hadn't hit the drive yet, just slammed the hammer next to it. His breathing was heavy, uneven. His lips moved as if he was talking to himself. Marcus knew this was his moment. Without another thought, he bolted across the street. "Marcus!" Jordan hissed, but it was too late. Marcus pulled the back door open. It wasn't locked. His sneakers pounded against the linoleum as he pushed into the office. "Stop!" Marcus yelled. Riley spun around, his face pale. The hammer was still raised. The hard drive sat inches from destruction. "What are you doing here?" Riley's voice cracked with anger and fear. "You set me up," Marcus said, his chest rising and falling. "You planted that candy bar. You lied. And now you're about to destroy the only proof." Riley's jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here before I call the police." Marcus's fist shook. "Call them. Let's see how they explain this drive when it's pulled up in court." For a moment, the two stared at each other, the hammer trembling in Riley's hand, Marcus's eyes blazing with defiance. Then, suddenly, a loud voice shouted from behind, "Put it down, Riley." Both men whipped around. Denise stood in the doorway, with Ms. Alvarez, the lawyer, right beside her, and behind them, a uniformed officer. Marcus's mouth fell open. "Mom!" Denise's voice was steady. "I knew you'd try something reckless. I followed you, and thank God I did." The officer stepped forward. "Sir, put the hammer down now." Riley's arm trembled. His face crumpled like a wall collapsing. With a grunt, he let the hammer fall to the desk. Denise's eyes didn't leave him. "You framed my son. You accuse him because of your own prejudice. And you almost destroyed his future." The officer moved quickly, securing the hard drive into an evidence bag. Riley didn't resist. He just sat down heavily in the chair, his head in his hands. Marcus felt his knees go weak. He almost couldn't believe what he was seeing. Later that night, at the police station, the truth came spilling out. The hard drive was played on a small monitor. Everyone gathered close: Marcus, Denise, Ms. Alvarez, the officer, and even Caleb, who had been brought in to give a statement. The footage was clear. It showed Riley pocketing the candy bar from the front display before Marcus even walked into the store. It showed him confronting Marcus with a bar already hidden in his pocket. It showed Marcus looking confused, insisting he didn't steal anything. The room was silent when the clip ended. Marcus sat back, a wave of relief rushing over him so strong it almost made him dizzy. Denise reached over and gripped his hand tightly. Ms. Alvarez spoke first. "That's it. That's the truth. This is enough to not only clear Marcus, but to hold Riley accountable." The officer nodded grimly. "Charges will be filed. He won't get away with this." Caleb shifted uneasily in his seat. He looked at Marcus. "I'm sorry, man. I should have spoken up sooner." Marcus stared at him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "You should have. But at least you did now." The next few days changed everything. News spread quickly through the town. The footage was shown on local TV stations and shared all over social media. People who had once whispered and doubted Marcus now saw the truth with their own eyes. The looks he got in school shifted from suspicion to shame from those who would judge him so quickly. Jordan slapped him on the back as they walked through the hallways. "Told you, man. The truth always comes out." But Marcus wasn't smiling. "Yeah, but it shouldn't have taken all this for people to believe me. If Caleb hadn't talked, if Mom hadn't shown up with the lawyer, I'd still be the thief in everyone's eyes." Jordan grew quiet. Riley was arrested. The charges against him included filing a false police report, tampering with evidence, and attempted destruction of property. His reputation collapsed overnight. Green Mart shut its doors temporarily. People in town debated furiously, some defending him, others furious that his prejudice had almost destroyed a teenager's life. Through it all, Marcus stayed quiet. He didn't post online, didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. He just wanted his life back. But Denise saw the weight still pressing on him. One night at the dinner table, she reached across and touched his hand. "You did nothing wrong," she said softly. "Remember that. The shame was never yours." Marcus nodded slowly. His eyes burned, but he held it in. Weeks later, Marcus found himself back on the basketball court. The orange ball thudded against the pavement, echoing through the empty park. Each bounce felt like a release. As he lined up for a shot, he saw Jordan jogging up. "Yo!" Jordan called, catching his breath. "Big game tomorrow. You ready?" Marcus let the ball fly. It swished through the net. He finally smiled, a real smile this time. "Yeah," he said. "I'm ready." For the first time in weeks, the court didn't feel heavy. The town stares didn't matter. The whispers didn't matter. The truth was out there now, and it could never be buried again. That night, Marcus sat at his desk with a notebook open. He wrote slowly, carefully, the words forming like steady beats. "They said I stole. They said I was guilty. But the camera told the truth. And now, so will I?" He didn't know yet if it would become a speech, a journal, or maybe even a story he'd share with others one day. But he knew he couldn't let the experience fade. Too many people lived under the weight of false accusations. Too many had stories that never reached the light. As Marcus closed the notebook, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The truth had been hidden, buried under lies and prejudice. But it had survived. And so had he. If you like this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also and other to strengthen our community. Let us know in the comments where you are watching from and what time you are currently watching this video.